Thank you everyone for sharing this night with us or day, whenever you guys are listening. Again, my name is Jose Encalada. This is our first guest. This is our first episode also. His name's Jay. We are located in South Florida, and please give us any feedback, any stories, any experiences of your like on psychedelics. Thank you. We'll be having this conversation with Jay. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, your background?
My name is Jay, and I am big into psychonaut, big into the expanding your consciousness, going into different realms, and just overall spirituality as a whole, reality as a whole, and this whole matrix as a whole.
Nice. Where are you from, Jay?
I am from South Florida, which is where we're at right now. Shout outs to Little Haiti, Miami. Get it.
Oh no. Cool. I also we are hosting from Miami. I never said that. Yeah.
It's important.
It's important for them to know.
You guys got to know where we're at,
Yeah.
in case you want to send us free stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. And the voice that you hear from the person that you can't see is Mr. E.
Yeah, Mr. E.
Mr. E, who set this whole thing up. Literally, the whole thing, everything that you see, these microphones, they're not ours.
Yeah. No, Mr. East.
They're Mr. A's.
Mr. East.
Mr. Amazon.
Mr. Amazon. Don't worry about who's behind the camera. Just know he's a person, and he's cooking right now. Chefy.
Yeah, greatest sponsor, Mr. A.
You have no idea how much we're being paid for this. Are you getting paid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you.
It's like
you?
it's the same as infinity.
You?
Zero.
Like me? I'm not a dime, bro.
Not a dime.
unless it blows up on a YouTube channel, then
Right.
Right.
If it does blow up on a YouTube channel, I'm not going to work anymore, bro. That'll be it. We're just going to be here talking about some trippy stuff.
Yeah.
So what are we getting in the topic of? What's today's topic, Jose?
We can go back on you not only growing up, but from doing. How was your life before your patterns? What were you doing before you ever touched a psychedelic, and then how did it start changing, or how was it hand in hand with the psychedelics experience?
I would say when I was younger, right, I was almost like an atheist to a certain point. I was kind of like, a very logical mind, very scientific mind and all that. Like even when people would talk about ghosts, I never used to really believe it. I would hear, my buddy talking about like a traumatic ghost experience that he used to get haunted a lot, but that was about the closest thing that I'd have. So up until psychedelics, I really was not spiritual at all. At all. Like very, very close-minded.
Because you didn't have the information, or because you had it but you didn't believe it?
Yeah, everybody has it, but it's like sometimes if you're like, oh, I don't believe it, you just shut it off.
Right.
And that was me.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, after doing the DMT, it's just like, oof.
And that was your first psychedelic?
My first psychedelic was actually acid. Me and my buddy were about 14, 15, and then we did acid together, and that shit was so much fun.
Okay.
Definitely, like, seeing that, just like, brightened colors, all the, the beautiful, sights and all that, like the feeling, just feeling like that your inner child is like awoken again. It's just like, that was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it was exactly for me.
What was the first one that you did?
Yeah, it was LSD. We shared it between some friends, and we traveled from like 30 minutes, but it was on the countryside. So that's when it kicked in. That was in Ecuador, back home.
Beautiful.
And that ride, it was it was incredible. Yeah. But and then I have another question. When did you start feeling more depth in your trips?
In as far as for spirituality wise,
Yes.
I would say that, I mean, really, like, even though I did, acid and all that, like, it awoke in me and it made me feel good, but I did not, like, even though I was like, okay, I'm tripping and I feel good, I see all this stuff and all that, but I just never considered it spiritual. I just considered it, like, whatever. But when I did DMT for the first time, that's when it, like, just completely flips your reality upside down. And it's like it allows you to see that there's like so much more than the eye can see, and we're very, very limited. When you do DMT, like right now we can only see 3% of the EMF spectrum, but on DMT you can see 100% of it, and it's just like the veil is lifted and it's like
Yeah.
But yeah, so how was your DMT experience?
Yeah, first one was I felt it was very liberating, but I cannot remember very much.
That's what most people say too.
It just felt incredibly crazy because it's the sensorial situation on my body. It was different. It was one night I'm feeling like this, maybe excited more in the body, and then the other morning after that I feel like because it's a
Disassociated?
Yeah.
Like,
So
you just said disassociated. Yeah, you definitely feel disassociated. It makes you feel like
you're in total control of,
fractalized.
like, yes, it's like what I felt, it was that I was riding a horse. I was just enjoying riding the horse with every movement and every drink of water, everything. It just felt like that, and that felt for a good couple of months. Yeah.
That's how, like, the soul controlling the body.
That whole story that you guys just told, hold it for 2 seconds, let me get a focus, and we're going to do that part again, okay?
Oh my God, I can't even remember what the fuck we talked about. Like, talk about it again. I'm like, dimethyltryptamine is what the conversation is about, aka the spirit molecule, aka the studied drug that was studied by Dr. Terence McKenna, where he did thousands and thousands of reports on people who had DMT, and people from different countries and different languages and different cultures all reported having the same effects. What does that tell you, Jose? There's probably something to it.
Yeah, there is definitely something to that.
There's gotta be. It's too much science. Now, as far as for the conversation that we had prior to, couldn't tell you. Gone.
So
I wouldn't blame that on the DMT. I would blame it on the
weed.
Wow,
weed
bro.
does
I wasn't
that.
gonna say that, bro. Why
Weed does that.
you doing that to me like that, bro? Weed
Maybe
does that.
Maybe let's go to your first DMT experience, like minute by minute, visually.
I would
and
like, I mean, even my
sensorial.
first, DMT experiences, right? Like, it was cool, it was disorienting and all that, but like really, like not until like I used to have DMT parties where like I would have like 8 of my
Whoa.
friends come over. Yeah,
Whoa.
good, beautiful, like beautiful experiences, bro.
Yeah.
So I'd have like 8 people over, right? And then we'd all one at a time go and do the DMT, and then we'd come back and talk about our experiences. And bro, it's like, it was insane. This one girl did it, right? And she did it, and then she goes back, and then all of a sudden she just starts talking about like a whole bunch of Egyptian shit. She just like goes into detail with all this like
Yeah,
Egyptian. She's like, my prior incarnation was Hathor, da 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 da. And then we looked at the picture of like the person that she said, and we're like, oh my God, it looks like her. Like, it was like super, super weird, like people being like, oh, I went under and like I saw these light beings, and like he's like, I know who they are, like I feel like I remember them, but I can't remember them. And it's like we have these spirit guides and things like that seem to be on the other side. But like I would say the most profound thing that Dr. Terence McKenna talks about a lot too, because he's done thousands and thousands of reports on people who've done DMT and all that, and the one thing that he's known for is the DMT machine elves. And that was a kind of fucking traumatic experience for me, to be honest. That should give me a little bit of PTSD. So I do the DMT, right? And then when I do the DMT, I get immediately launched, and I see about 100 elves, right? Like their backs turned to me, and they're all working on the wall. They all seem to be touching the wall or working on something, right? And I'm in my mind, I went, "What the fuck?" And as soon as I said that in my mind, all of the elves turned around, ran up, dove in me, and like when I say dove into me, right, I was sitting in a couch, they jumped into me, the couch slid back, and they were physically touching me, and I was like, oh shit, I think I fucked up. I was like, immediately I was like, my mom was right, these are demons. I think I just fucking contracted demons and shit. Like I was like terrified, right? So I'm feeling their strength. They were very, 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 very strong, right? And as I'm like freaking out, they're pulling my clothes and like fighting for my attention. Nothing else, just fighting to be like, look at me, look at me. And as I'm looking at them individually, I can tell, I'm like, yo, like one is a little bit taller, one is old. Like I can see that they have different facial features. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, this isn't even like me seeing the same thing, like my mind creating it. I'm like, I'm seeing a race of beings. And every one of them, that's the part that tripped me out. I'm like, is this a race of like, why the fuck is there an old one? And like, why do they look so different, bro? Like different clothes, like every one of them had their own personality and shit. And even like their energy and shit, you know, like the one old one was a fucking asshole. He was trying to scare me. He was doing, you know, scary things. And then like one was like happy, you know, like kind of like the Seven Dwarfs. It was like that. Like each one had their own personality and shit. And what they were doing is they were trying to give me these gifts. And I'm like, they were like, here, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? I don't like, what are you doing? And each gift was different, you know. This one elf, he was like, hey, look at me, and then he's like, yeah. Then he opens up his mouth all the way and eats himself backwards and disappears, and then he just goes, there you go. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on, dude? Like I'm over here like being like, I don't know what is happening. This is weird as fuck. Then one of the elves jump into me, right? And which also like physically I could feel it like moving around in my body and shit like that. And as soon as it jumped into me, I just started speaking. It's like, we're responsible for nature. Nature doesn't just happen for any reason. Nature happens because we guide it. We are the Christmas gnomes, you know, the Christmas elves, the toy making elves, the shoe making elves, the Keebler elves that live in the tree. We are the nature aspect of it. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Super, super weird as fuck, right? So when that first happened to me, right, I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody about this shit. I'm like, I'm keeping this shit to my fucking self. Like, because, like, what am I going to say? Like, I saw elves. Like, nah, that's weird as fuck.
No one's going to believe you.
I mean, like, well, my other boy would because he's done DMT and shit. But it's like at the same time, I'm like, I don't even feel comfortable admitting that. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So when I first did it, right, like I kept it to myself and all that. And then my other boy who's done DMT and all that, like, he was talking to me. And then, like, I was like, kind of like, yeah, like, I don't know, man. Like, this one time I did it, I kind of like, I don't know. I like, they looked like they were like elves. And then he's like, you saw them? They were kind of sinister, weren't they? And I'm like, you fucking seen them too? Like, he had also done DMT and seen the same fucking things. And like, the reason why they seem sinister is because they play way too rough and it's scary, especially if you're not ready for it. You're just like traumatized and shit. But like, he did it, right? He's like, oh, and he was the one who's like, you need to look into Dr. Terrence McKenna. When I looked into Dr. Terrence McKenna, I'm like, oh my God, bro. Like, this guy's doing thousands of reports of people all over the world, different cultures, different languages, having the same fucking characters. People in the Amazon, right? Shamans in the Amazon, they I forget what the name is for them, but like they talk about, you know, the elves and all that, and they say that a good shaman is one that can have the elf jump in him and keep as many elves in his body. Like there's fucking, you know, this same shit that's echoing again and again and again. The Wizard of Oz, right? When when Dorothy first gets there, right, she lands there, the little munchkin people in the weird land, what did they give her? They started giving her gifts. They're like, here, we're this, we're that, and they started bringing her the welcoming gifts, because that's what the elves were doing. Is like, I popped in and they were welcoming me with little gifts and little trinkets and things like that. So that was the most traumatic fucking experience as far as for DMT for me. And what do you think was like your most like peak DMT experience that you think was just like?
Before we go any further, does anyone have my octopus hat? We're talking about psychedelics, and I feel kind of naked without. Show it to the camera. It's pretty sweet hat, dude.
Hang on. I don't wanna.
It's
I don't wanna fuck up.
No, it's all good. Just throw it in there. Yeah. So I guess there's a bunch of lens caps in there. Awesome.
Are we flexing the hat right now?
I'm flexing it.
It's talking about DMT.
I love octopuses. Yeah. So
talking about DMT.
Yeah.
These are DMT octopuses, in case anybody's wondering why.
Psychedelic octopuses.
Octopuses.
I feel like I want to show Jose's painting, but I don't want to change the camera angle. Jose, you want to grab that real quick and just hold it up real quick?
Hold it up like that. You guys think we're not talking about trippy stuff? Then what is this? What about this? It gets so trippy around here.
Yeah, man.
It is a very nice situation.
Also very very nice.
Very nice situation. I like that.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love the light.
That's the catchphrase right there, yo. Hey, welcome tonight, and it's a very nice situation.
Welcome to this very nice situation.
Yeah.
So Jose, you were going to talk about psychedelics. So DMT.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was your peak?
My peak psychedelic experience hasn't happened on DMT yet, but it has happened on LSD and ayahuasca. Nice. Mushrooms too. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to say a peak experience because they're very different and they're
kind of hard to remember too.
Yeah, hard to remember. I remember to have one of similar experience to you when I saw individuality in other beings and something exterior as me that I've never realized before. So in your case it was elves. In my case it was sand, or it was trees having individuality and active interaction with me, or within the me on the state of consciousness where I was with psychedelics. So
sand is God also.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah, you, me, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We understand that. Yeah, that's a nice psychedelic kind of realization that a lot of people get as some kind of unity between all the personalities that we exist. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Actually, I had something similar to that happen with it's like my definition of archetypes is like, I mean, I've read a lot of Carl Jung.
Yeah.
But like archetypes, like I always kind of think of maybe not as a traditional example of what an archetype is, but like you meet people that remind you of someone that you've met before, right?
Yeah. Deja vu.
Yeah, and you're just like, man, this is like almost like the same person, like just some subtle twist, and like they're into different stuff, or they look different, you know. And it's like we all have this common out, like there's some kind of a connection, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's I think what describes personality can be the different spirits or elves that we pick on life.
Yeah, I think that's really neat. I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah, because it's just personalities, you know, like influences about other parts of reality.
That's awesome.
I really get influenced by you all.
Yo, that's why I love our little Kavor, bro, because it's like we all like give each other good information and like just feed off each other with that spirituality and that just good energy. It's like it's hard to find your little vibe tribe like that, but I like our little vibe tribe.
Right. My most psychedelic experience, to back on that, it was on LSD. I found LSD at very young. I was like 13 or 14, and I did a microdoses. My first big trip was when I was maybe 15 or 16, when I started taking um, one tap or two taps. I will say it was like 100 to 200 UGs of LSD, and then I started going more and more. And maybe my first, but yeah, all of them were sensorial, or in a sense, like in very physical, music and movies and touching and walking a lot. That's a cool one for me because it just gives you the energy to do it on during the day. It was beautiful for me.
The day, especially with all the colors and all that, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, the sun itself.
Yeah, the sun itself is just like,
it's a very different experience. And then I started experimenting during the nights on my own room, just doing that, and trying to be as quiet as possible. And that led me to a meditation on psychedelics,
which is so good. That's like that's what you want to do. Like if you're gonna take psychedelics, meditate.
Yeah. So that's a train of thought that it's a visual movie, you know, for a visual interpretation. I give it a visual interpretation about it, and that's super cool. Yeah. And it's a movie of my life, which is the great thing, you know, because
like, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of those nights, after a year maybe of taking psychedelics, just because of a feeling in my body, I had an experience where it was although I had touched already spiritual subjects like individuality or the existence of my consciousness without my body. So because I could go into these meditations a long time and I wouldn't be able to be controlling my body or stuff like that, and I could do 8 hours of just there on my own train of thought going and understandings, and most of these understandings came from conversations that I had between an entity that I cannot recognize right now, because it can be myself, it can be God itself, we can say it through me.
Do you remember the shape of it or anything that it looked like?
No, it was just questions and answers happening in my body.
Your higher consciousness.
Yeah,
maybe.
in my higher consciousness, and it was the visualization of the same story, because it was all the lessons were always taught in stories. Me understanding like why I just did this and how that connected to something very, very old. Maybe when I was a kid, this happened, and there's a probability or a big important connect with memories and habits of now. So yeah, I think that's one of also the beautiful gems of psychedelics. It can give you that understanding, and so that's what they say that psychedelics are. You can solve a problem that you could have solved in therapy for 10 years. You can do it in one night of psychedelics.
I believe that too.
I've heard that a lot of times from different experiences, different people.
You'll see yourself, you'll self-reflect, and then you'll be like, oh my god, why am I doing this? Like sometimes you won't even see it unless you get to that point of like psychedelics or like deep therapy. Like it kind of makes you, oh, look at that, I didn't even know that about myself. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I love that aspect of it.
Or different possibilities of reality. That's also pretty cool. The broad thinking of psychedelics, it's pretty cool. On LSD specifically, it allows me to move more creatively. So playing music and having those spiritual experience or conversations between me while playing or drawing or painting, to use them as a medium. So I always connected that with psychedelics as well.
Yeah.
Expression,
Goes
trying.
hand in hand.
Yeah. It's like the understanding and the understanding I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah,
it's like
fifth dimensional thoughts.
the way to interpret reality and at the same time. So I'm listening. It's like that game where someone needs to tell you one thing on this ear, and then you go to the next person and
The
say
telephone.
the telephone. Yeah, that's the game. It's something like that.
Yeah.
It's like tapping into that.
It's hard to fucking to lock in on what it is.
Yeah.
A lot of people they say when they do DMT, they're like, "Oh, you can't remember your trip on DMT," but it's like, you know, I can, but at the same time, it gets really hard. I think it was Joe Rogan was like, it's like gold dust slipping through your fingers, and then you're like, it's gone.
Yeah. The
feels.
reality just what you knew about reality just left.
Yeah.
It
Flip your reality upside down.
It reminds me to that white room of, it's like the back rooms of reality, because you see all these different systems. You can say like this elf itself, some kind of personalities, individual to itself, stars, you could say, any kind of personality, you, me, they interact with each other daily, on the daily basis, to create reality to the fullest. And that's pretty cool. So you enter these back rooms.
Yeah, that's how it definitely feels. Like you're definitely popping up into a different realm like that.
Yeah.
What's interesting, right, is so my grandma is like what we would call, like, I guess, like a white witch or whatever. Like, she was Irish. She was very did a whole bunch of, like, you know, nothing evil or any blood sacrifice or anything like that, but, like, you know, with nature and intentions, praying to the moon and all that. And you know, my mom was like, oh yeah, you know, she's a little bit crazy, because she didn't like the you know, that aspect. She was very, very Christian. And I remember we went over to her house one day, and my mom was like warning me. She's like, you know, she's weird, you know, watch out for her, she's gonna say some weird stuff. And I'm like, you know, okay, whatever. And literally it's like me, my grandma, and my mom, and then my mom gets up to go out of the room, and then as soon as she goes off, my grandma goes, you know that elves and fairies are real? And I'm like, my mom told me about you. My mom told me that you would be weird. Yeah. But what sucks is, like, she died, right? And then after she died, like, you know, like 5-10 years later or whatever, then I had the elf experience. So it's like, damn, now I wish I would have been able to, like, talk to her about it, or, like, be like, what was your experience and all that? Like, what the fuck?
Right. Yeah, I've had situations where I've heard and I've had dreams about me drinking ayahuasca with my grandparents. Ooh. Which they passed away when I was like 5-6 years old.
That's cool though. That's a cool dream.
Yeah, and so it was a very vivid identification of, like, yeah, that's him, and that it was a cool dream. I was same age in my dream, around 5-6 years old, and I was in their house, and they had a piano. So the piano was against the wall, and behind the wall I was like crawling underneath the piano, and I found this little door, like an air vent. So I opened that door and I look inside, and it's a library. It's a big library, wooden, dark, and I somehow got there, and I was looking for this book, and it was the book that it was a prohibited book, and
the good books.
Yeah, the good book, the most mysterious book ever, and they were hiding it, or it was in a hidden. So I was looking for it. I get to the place, I see the book, I open, and then all of a sudden I'm in the jungle, and a jungle that I've been before, and somehow everything is dark, but I see like a little fire going on, maybe 20-30 meters. I go, and they're there. My grandfather and my grandmother cooking ayahuasca. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I woke up. I don't remember anything after that. But
I definitely think that they visit you in your dreams and all that. Like when you're having that, I don't think it's just, all the time. I don't think it's always just you just having a dream. I think that sometimes they can visit you in your dreams and stuff like that, for sure.
Yeah, it's a personality itself that that's being active with my life. So that's pretty cool. The interconnection of grandfathers or people way before us that already knew about this stuff, these other realities, that in this case we tap them with psychedelics. Yeah, but it's same kind of reality that some other people also experience, and sometimes people on the daily, and that's bad. Like problems like schizophrenia.
Yeah, they're definitely, it's almost like the veil is always lifted.
Yeah.
And it's not, you're like, I can't function.
Yeah.
But a lot of I think it's in Indian cultures, right? People who are schizophrenic are actually looked at as prophets. They're not looked at as like crazy or like mad people. They're actually like respected and revered and all that because they are tapped into the spiritual world. It's just not easy for them to function when you're like seeing spirits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, schizophrenia is.
Yeah, I would never like that.
Yeah, schizophrenia. Yeah, and definitely people who have schizophrenia or who are prone to schizophrenia, like let's just say it's in your family or whatever, psychedelics will definitely bring that out. I've seen that happen on 2 different occasions. So it's like if you do have any schizophrenia or whatever, you definitely should be cautious with that because it can really drive it out and make it more pronounced.
Yeah, there has to be a sense of honesty in when taking psychedelics, and like not trust it, respect it. Just don't do psychedelics, guys. We don't recommend.
Also, don't do that. Like they're so cool, but also don't do them. I had a similar thing with that. So I used to be addicted to pain pills back in the day. The doctor giving prescribed pain pills, and then eventually just like making a dependency on it. And then one day I was like, I'm gonna quit. So I quit, and the withdrawals were so bad that like for like 3 days I just didn't eat, and I just laid in bed and all that. And like as I was laying in bed, like kind of awake but kind of asleep, my grandpa came to me in like a vision. And like when I saw him, he wasn't like old. He was like a younger grandpa, and like almost to where I'm like, I didn't even like, I've never seen him young like that, but I knew it was my grandpa. Like when it's like you're like, I knew that it was ayahuasca. It's like it's almost like I'm like, okay, I know that that's my grandpa. And I was over here thinking like, oh, this is the end of the world because this like I'm addicted to the pain pills, and like I feel so bad. Like everything just seemed terrible, bro. It was like the worst possible thing. Like I mean like I was like suicidal. Like I just didn't even care about living anymore because I was just so fucking addicted to the pills that like I was just numbed out. And then when my grandpa came into me, he told me something in my dream, and it was like, he's like, this doesn't matter. This isn't even irrelevant because of da 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 da. And as soon as he said it in the dream, I went, that's it. I woke myself up, and I don't remember what the fuck he said.
No.
I know, but I think that's the fucking point. Is like I'm not supposed to know. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember what he said before that, but like the main part that was like, I'm like when he said it in the dream, I was like, dude, I'm like, this whole drug addiction doesn't matter. I'm like, none of this fucking shit matters. This isn't even like the main fucking part. I'm like, they're like, this is the least of it. And over there, I'm like, nah, dog, like that's fucking nothing. And it was like, I wish I could remember what it was, but I just like, I knew that like as soon as he said it, I was like,
right.
I'm like, there's more that fucking that's going on here.
Yeah. So we're talking about psychedelics, DMT in this case, with you.
I want to know, have you ever had a ghost experience or any paranormal experience like that?
I've had the regular feeling of someone's with me in the room before, in a sober state. In psychedelics itself, never. I've never seen something that's been as paranormal like that.
Yeah, I've never had a ghost paranormal experience. I've only had sober ghost experience.
Right. Yeah.
The only time that I've had like that was like, shit, what the fuck? I was spending the night at this girl's house, right? And like, what was weird is like, I went over there. She had a big ass house, right? And she's like, her main room, her bedroom was over here, right? But she's like, yeah, we're gonna spend the night over here. And I'm like, why the fuck are you sleeping in the guest room if all your shit's in there? Like, it was like a bigger bed and all that. I thought it was fucking weird, right? So I'm like, all right, whatever. So the middle of the night, right? I'm sitting there and I'm laying, because when I drink alcohol, like I got like insomnia, I can't sleep, right? So I'm just sitting there with like my eyes closed, just like laying in bed awake. I feel on the bed, like two hands on each side of me and the weight of like, a person, right? And I have my eyes closed and I'm like, this girl is being weird as hell right now. She's just like watching me sleep. Like, what the fuck? And I open up my eyes and I see her next to me.
Oh.
And I go like this and I look forward and bro, I see a little fucking ghost boy. And like, not only did I see him, like he looked literally like grayed out. Like he just looked like almost like gray, like kind of misty. But when I saw him, he went like, I saw him be like scared that I saw him, and then he ran down the fucking the bed, ran down the hall, right? And now this is where it gets weird. So at her house, right, there's it was like all of her doors, you don't just lock them, you need a key lock on both sides. It's like a really weird thing. So you have to lock it from this side or lock it from this side. The door went closed and locked, right? She did not have a key to this lock. The ghost boy fucking locked her fucking door and shit like that. I had to drill out her fucking her door in order for her to get to her clothes and shit like that. So it's like this little ghost boy was like very, very materialized. Like he had weight to him and all that, right? So the next morning, her friend, or I was talking to her friend. I'm like, yo, I kind of had like a ghost experience, and she just went, oh, you talking about the little ghost boy? I'm like,
oh, how?
like, what the fuck? Yeah, like, why do you know that? And then she's like, oh yeah, he's a little ghost boy. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on here, bro? I'm like, this is like normal for you guys? Like, that's fucking weird as fuck. But the reason why the girl didn't like sleeping in that room was because of the ghost boy. So she was like, don't talk about it, you're gonna just make it stronger. Like she was like very, very afraid of it. But like that was the only ghost experience I've ever had like that. I've never had any other ghost experience that I can think about.
Was it an old house?
No, but it was just weird energy, right? So like if you think about it, right, there's no like, it's not like a manual lock. You have to key lock it on both sides. That's already weird, right? When she was leasing it. When she was leasing it, they're like, oh, there's this one room that's boarded up and locked up. You can't go in there. I'm like, what the, like, is the little boy in there, bro? Like, what the fuck is that shit? Like,
wow.
Yeah. that was weird. I'm like, bro. I'm like, there's a little serious ghost boy running around, and all the locks are like weird locks, and on top of that, you have a locked up room that nobody can go in. I just wanted to kick down that door and be like, what the fuck's going on in here?
That is wild. You know, I have a story for you guys. I grew up in this house that was a railroad switchman's house, right?
Oh God, that sounds old as shit.
For the railroad, and it was built in the 1800s.
Oh man.
Anyway, so it was this old house, and it's like really close to the train tracks. From, I don't know how to illustrate, but like maybe like 50 feet or less from the train tracks, something like that, probably less. And you could the pictures on the walls would rattle when the train went by.
Oh, I think you're talking about the ghost. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, like I mean, there was some stuff. So, anyways, there was a man who used to live there before us, back in like the 1950s, and I guess before that, and he, I guess he was like a pretty normal guy for the most part, but I guess not, because he ended up killing his wife.
That's not so normal.
Yeah, I know, not normal at all. And so, and my grandma actually remembered the trial. Like he was this, he ended up getting committed to like a mental institution, and then my brother told me later that he went back to work for the railroad during the time that we lived there, which was after them, you know, like starting on the 1980s and on. And I used to wake up in the middle of the night and just be like, my dad would see me and I'd be like, I think first I would be like screaming or something, and then I would sit up straight, and he would see me just sitting there. He would call my name and I would just sit up straight and just look straight forward, like like I'm like he's not even in the room, or like I'm looking at something, and then I would just flop back down to sleep. And eventually, just one day, I think he prayed. Like he prayed this prayer that he just kind of intuitively knew to say, and it never came back again.
Yeah, sometimes it goes like that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's
like
what
an
happened
energy.
to the little boy. They literally did like a prayer or like a cleansing and all that, and like little boy was gone. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think that energies linger from like past events, and so have you ever heard of the term morphic resonance?
No.
So
Sounds intense though.
It's this idea that fields, like these morphic fields of energy,
yeah, I understand.
from people and things and events that happen, linger in the walls, in the room, in the area, like they linger in the material space, right?
Like unfinished business and stuff like that.
It's kind of like the unfinished business thing, and so it's like there's this idea that something can remain in a space in that sense. Like it's almost like even like this whole thing with the energy, like everything that's like ever been broadcast from Earth, like FM's radio signals, they're technically all floating around in space somewhere now, and it's like, and there's this theory that like everything that's ever happened here or in anywhere, like anywhere else, I guess, could technically be received somewhere and like imaged, like a giant hard drive. So you could like basically anything that's ever happened has like an energetic,
or like a receipt.
Yeah,
or like
it's left. Yeah, like an energetic imprint on things, because energy gets changed and back and forth from matter, and there's waves and there's energy, and it's like, so there should be a way to get all of this, like the experience we're having right now, right? We're having this experience, this dynamic experience, but it's almost like you could get all the information for it and like bring it back, but I'm fascinated by that kind of stuff. But
what's his name? Huff Paranormal. There's a couple people who do that with the spirit radios, where they go and they seem to talk to these like disembodied spirits, and it seems like like a lot of the time too, he does a thing where he like prays to God, prays that they go to the light, and go back to that, because it's like it just seems like they get stuck here and they don't really know what they're doing. It's almost like when they come through on the spirit radio, they sound kind of like, oh, what? Like when the ghosts say, oh, like they're almost like confused, because they're just like floating around and like they're not even supposed to be there. It's definitely interesting.
Somebody was saying something the other day. I forget who it was. It might have been, sometimes I listen to these tarot readers. And one was saying like this idea of as long as you're remembered, right? Like, have you ever seen, there's this movie, I think it's called Coco, where they're like, where all the ancestors, as long as anybody remembered them, then they were still here, I guess they would still be here, like as a ghost or something. But the idea that like you have, as long as somebody remembers you, or maybe as long as you had some like unfinished business or something that like that was lingering that you never really fully resolved, right? Like then you might be something of you might be here. Right. That's
a complete meaning of ghost for me. It goes to that situation of unfinished businesses, personalities that follow us on a daily basis, inside of our own conversation monologue within ourselves.
What do you think about like with past loved one, like if somebody's passed on from this realm,
right?
And like how do you think that could factor into your experience? Like what, how you say like the conversations you have like in your mind, like imagine, like sometimes I'll do this, like when I meditate, like I'll imagine like my grandpa on my dad's side or something like that, and I'll just like go into this imaginal space where I'll visualize kind of like astral projection, and I'll literally visualize myself going to his house, flying up there from Florida, and then like having a conversation with him, and of course, because of all the time I ever spent with him and the conversations we ever did have, I have a sort of repository of information that he might say, and so my imagine can fill in all, you know what I mean, like I can fill in all those blanks, know. So I think there's something to be said about all of the experiences and conversations and things that the person left and had, and like in a sense like you remember that, and it's they're living on. I mean, I would almost argue to say like they're still here.
That's what I think. It's like sometimes I think that that they can still be here watching us, but like there's other times where like I know that they reincarnate, and I think most of the time, like if my grandfather dies, he gets reincarnated as like my nephew and all that, right? Like I do believe that is a thing. And also in African beliefs too, they believe in that. They believe that like, oh, if a family member dies, they try to have a baby really fast because they want to bring the family member back in.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something between like them coming reincarnated again and them just like, you know, being able to like watch us and all that.
Yeah.
But one thing that I thought that was beautiful, right? Because I truly believe that that my nephew is, you know, reincarnated and all that from my grandpa. Because one, he just looks so much like him. But one thing that's like a beautiful thought is like, imagine it's like, okay, you know, like my mom gets raised by my grandpa, right? Then in the next reincarnation, my mom gets to raise my grandpa. They get like both like aspects of the nurturing and all that.
Yeah,
I like that.
I like that too. I think that's another thing I've had when I would do like these meditations where you start to go deep into like your spiritual self or like past lives. You know how they do past life regression and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I started having these thoughts that I might have been all the people in my life. Like, and you know what I mean? Like you're the other person from the other perspective, like you said. And it's funny. Well, not funny, haha, but like
Trippy, haha.
yeah, like a little trippy, haha. My son is I don't know what it was. If it was his birthday, I think it was his birthday. It was either the same day or something very similar, like a similar time, like of the month or something, that he was born to my wife's late stepfather, who died of cancer. God rest his soul. But my son, like we both, I think her and I both kind of thought maybe there's some of his energy there, you know. And I actually never met my my wife's late stepfather, but I always had the feeling like that he was a really nice guy, like a fun, like and when I would talk to her about it, she'd be like, yeah, he was that way. He was funny. He would make everybody laugh, you know. Like I was like, man, it would have been cool to hang out, you know.
Yeah.
That's pretty
That
cool.
sucks when it's like, damn, it's too late.
And we're there. I mean, like technically the house we live in is the house that they lived in. So it's like I always feel like if there's been times when family members have actually come from Nicaragua, and they'll talk about like they felt somebody touched them and they're like they thought it was him, you know, like somebody was like, you know, doing it, like I could feel him there, and like I was like, wow, you know. And I always felt like if there is a ghost in her house, it's probably like a kind and like a well-meaning energy, you know what I mean? Like just a sense of that anyways.
I think it depends on the dialogue that you have inside of your situation, because in your daily thinking, because you will realize when those bad ghosts are following you and when those good ghosts are gonna start showing up, like your grandfather or just different personalities that are great.
And one perspective of that is this one Native American chick. First off, like the Native American chick, she was like so in contact with the spiritual world that like I had no idea that people were living like that. I was like, holy shit, bro. Like I went to do the Native American Sweat Lodge in the Redlands in Florida, and when went to go do it, she's like, oh, where is it? Where? Oh, there it is, where all the hawks are circling. And I'm like, what? She literally followed the hawks to figure out where she was going, and the hawks were directly right where the whole thing was. Yeah. But with her, right, is like, you know, she did this. She would have a ghost, or like she's like, I think it's a lover from a past life or something like that, right? As soon as she said that, I felt a hand touch me, and I'm like, whoa! And then she just goes, oh wait, he's here right now. And I'm like, dude, not only is he fucking here, he's fucking touching my shoulder. Like, what the fuck? And then she's like, yeah, you know, that's just what happens. And then she was doing Reiki on me, right, where she put the crystals around me, and she was like, you know, clearing my energy and all that. And as she was doing it, right, I start seeing, bro, I start like if you pull up a picture of what a Wendigo is, I start seeing this creature, which is a Native American folklore creature, which I didn't know until afterwards. And this thing is like snarling at me and slashing at me and shit. And I'm like, eyes open, eyes closed, I'm seeing it, and I'm like, dude, I'm freaking out. And this is me like dead sober too. That's what's crazy. Is like I'm not even on anything. This is me sober as hell. She just like almost like was like awakening like everything in me. And when I was freaking out, she just goes, "Whoa, hold on. My ancestors are pissed off that I let a white boy into the house." And I'm like, not only are you correct, I'm seeing some terrifying shit right now. Like I didn't even say anything. I was just over there like, wow, by myself. And then when she tuned into that,
this is it. I'm gonna let Jose. Yeah, if you show it to Jose too.
Yeah, literally this, bro. That's literally it, bro. Scary as hell. Snarling at me, the long, pale, like fucking limbs and all that, dude. Super, super scary. But when she said that, right, when she was like, yo, my ancestors are pissed off that I let a white boy into the house, I'm like, dude, not only that, but I'm seeing this thing. And supposedly where the Wendigo came from was like the Native Americans were like sending this thing on the Europeans and stuff like that to like kick them out because they were like tormenting them and all that. So literally, like, I was getting like generational beef. They're like, I know you, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I didn't even believe in like generational curses or generational like, you know, like problems like that until then. And then I'm like, holy shit, bro. Like our blood really is like, it continues, you know, you have that bloodline of all the people before you and all that. But yeah, that shit was scary as fuck.
That's amazing. Like the Reiki thing really resonates with me. Like, so I never really did the crystals thing, but then I do these float tanks, and I was in one of those, like the isolation tank, and I decided to ask it. I guess I can't remember why, but I asked, should I try? I think I had a crystal bracelet, like, and I wanted to see if maybe I should get some crystals and try to meditate. And the float tank was like, I mean, I just have insights in there, so like the insight came to, you should try meditating with them, and so I did, and I would say it's like, it had like the flashing like you would have on a psychedelic trip. Like when I started meditating with one quartz crystal, I started feeling like, I was like, these vibrations are the ones you get on a trip.
Yeah, it's intense.
I was like,
it becomes that. Like it literally like activates you like a trip.
It was almost like you could theorize it's a focus object. You're holding it and your focus is stronger because you're focusing on this thing you're holding. But like crystals actually have a specific rate of vibration. Like that's why they use them in phones and stuff.
Computers,
they have yeah, like they have a frequency that they resonate at. So it's like and all things actually do. Which is the cool thing. And it's so the Reiki thing, I mean, I haven't really fully explored it. Like I met a girl who I did a Kundalini activation with.
Cool.
And like we did the meditation and everything, and she does Reiki, and I've never really gone fully into it.
Oh, it's super cool.
But yeah, I can't, like, so how was it like when you saw the, what do you call it, Wendigo?
The Wendigo? Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, because like she made a crystal ring around me, right? And she had like all these crystals like on my body and all that, but it almost seemed like it was on the outside of the crystal, and like the only thing that I saw is it just slashing at me and like snarling, and I was like traumatized, dude. I was like literally like seeing this, being like, okay, this is happening, let me not freak out, because eyes open or eyes closed, I was seeing it. It's not like I could just close my eyes or like open them and it would go away. It was like, it's here no fucking matter what. I was like, fuck.
So it was on the outside of the crystal too?
Yeah, it seemed like it was just outside, like it couldn't reach me, but it was like, dude, it was
like standing outside of it, kind of. Yeah,
like it was just like doing the motions, almost just like throwing it at me, but not like hitting me because it was just out of reach. But oof.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's cool.
That's really something. That's so like it's like so this whole idea with indigenous culture. So you have ayahuasca, right? In indigenous cultures, like in Peru, for instance, right? So Jose, you did ayahuasca.
Yeah.
So when did you? I think you probably went over it while I was fixing the cameras, but
first time that I came across ayahuasca was by a friend that we grew up together. Basically, we went to school together. He was friends of my family also, so he was always coming into the house, and we started doing psychedelics first, like LSD. I started doing LSD with him too, and then he was a little older than me, so he disappeared for a little time. He went to Uruguay, and he did a little study on psychology and psychedelics. So he he was connected with other people who was interested in the healing properties of psychedelics like mushrooms, San Pedro, and Cambo even, Bufo, DMT, FMO, DMT, and when he, after a few years, I forgot, like we had talked a few times but never in depth. We never got to that point of like, what are you doing? So then after a few years, I started talking with him again, and he was sharing ayahuasca this time. So he had a connection with an Amazon tribe, and he was buying ayahuasca from them.
That's like the best way to get it.
And he was this happened in Ecuador, and he was distributing it in the people for his healing properties. And so I had my first experience there. I probably was around 17 or 18 years old, and yeah, 18 maybe. So we are in his house. We would usually do it on his farm, but I asked, and I was traveling, and I felt like I wanted to do it, so I hit him up, and he was like, yes, but we cannot use the farm right now, so we can do it at our house. And he was like, it's not the optimal, but it will be fine. So it's a funny story because I got there, we got ready. He had a yoga mat, and he was like, this is your little boat, and the floor around you is gonna be your ocean. Which was funny. And I drank the first cup.
How was it?
It is a strong flavor, yeah, and it's unique.
For you, Jose, like, what did you get?
Yeah, what was your experience like? How did it affect you?
How did that affect? So yeah, again, it was a lot of understandings in a visual form as stories, right? That will catch your mind and would release when. Yeah. So after that, I drank the first cup. I was in the yoga mat. I was meditating, and I was starting to feel a vibration coming. That's a normal, like, it can be a normal experience. And I started feeling bad, like purging. And my friend asks me if I want another one, and I just knew that the answer was yes, but the flavor was gonna make me puke.
The flavor was no.
Yeah, so I just knew that was gonna happen. I drank it, and I started purging as soon as I drank it, and it was a sensation of vibration so much. It was so overwhelming, and as a positive way, that it was just cleaning my body and my mind. And I started visualizing this super white cannon coming from the sky on top of me, on top of my brain, and the same light was coming out as puke, as purging. And so that was very interesting. And then as soon as I opened my eyes, or I stopped puking, visually everything was normal with my open eyes. So I was like, okay, so what's the trip itself of ayahuasca? And my friend says, oh, you're good, you can go to sleep now. And I'm like, oh, did I come all the way here just to like have this sensation? Like, I thought it was gonna be stronger. And he's like, no, that's it, we finished, you can go to your room. So he gave me a room where it was a storage, basically, and it was an old storage, and everything was kind of dusty. There was a piano and some papers, like a lot of drawings, a lot of creative stuff. And I laid down there on a yoga mat and a cover for the cold. And as soon as I closed my eyes, stories after stories after stories after stories after stories, understandings again of why the problems that I have now, why exactly, where are they connected? And I had those understandings about my life. The most big part of that experience, I would say, it was the not only visuals as but the realization and of that new language inside of interpret in having an interpretation about reality. In psychedelics you can open up to more dimensions, you could say, right? and that was the first time experiencing that. I had in this room every little particle of it was made of bricks, and bricks made of sand, and I could see all these sands having a festival in the room. They're all dancing, they're all kind of celebrating something like a stadium, and they're all just like singing, dancing, and creating that. But there was the bigger broad personality of the room was telling me that the room was sad because it's a storage and no one's using it, no one's giving it a use. And I thought like, this it's crazy because it's my first time having a understanding different messages from different personalities that are not personalities itself, but somehow it's still expressing something. Yeah, conscious. It's still consciousness. It's still the same as me and you, under my understanding and belief. And it was telling me that it was sad because it was not being used, and I thought that I went nuts as soon as I had that situation. I thought like, this is exactly as seeing a toy on ayahuasca, and this toy telling you a whole story about your life. No one's gonna believe you that. So yeah, I thought after the trip, it was a very nice trip. After all that happened, I slept maybe for a couple of minutes or hours, and as soon as I wake up, I see him, and everything again is I'm more sensitive to reality. There's more understanding there's more peace because there's more understanding. So that has happened almost every morning after a psychedelics experience, when they are very transformative, peace. But yeah, I saw him, we laughed a little bit, and then I was gonna go out. I was gonna go my way because I was traveling, and at the door I was like, hey, do you know, I don't know if I need to tell you this, but
I don't know if I want to.
and I sent it, and I was like, yo, look, at yesterday and that experience, your room told me that they were feeling bad because they were not given a use. And he was like, oh, thank you very much, and we hugged and we say bye. And I kept that question for me a long time. It was only like something that was very mysterious for me. And after a couple of years, I made a friend with this guy. He was studying architecture, and he had this book, and this book was called The Spirituality of the Constructions. And there was a lot of understandings, like, I don't, if the walls could talk, like, what would they say, so they keep memory. And
I definitely believe that.
Yeah. And so that was like a reaffirmation of like, oh, okay, constructions,
like, I'm not going crazy.
Yeah, any kind of system that it's connected, that's creating reality, has its own language, and those understandings are cool. Appreciating them, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know that natives will be like, they'll pick up like
the
dirt.
head.
They'll be like, you see this dirt?
Yeah.
Do you see God in this dirt? Some
Yeah,
people will be like,
yeah.
no, like it's just dirt, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, this is God. This is
Yeah.
consciousness. Like anything that's here in this realm is conscious.
Yeah, there's a connection also with the head, and for Native Americans, the head, to knit reality together. That's a pretty cool perception. And again, together is together. And when you're on psychedelics, you can see all those together. It's a beautiful thing, to appreciate about reality. And I think that changed me a lot after that experience, because it was just trying to be as careful and in love with every person or situation, and that's difficult too.
Yeah,
know?
it's not
because
easy.
because it's like the lesson and then the action, and that's two different things. Like, how brave do you want to be to perform,
to initiate it.
Yeah.
There was definitely one time where I was, like anytime that I used to ever like take acid or whatever, I would always meditate. I was always like, I try to do it, not just like partying, but to like do it with intention. And one time I was sitting there in my backyard and I'm just like tripping and I'm like, meditating, and I'm just looking at this tree and I'm like, man, this tree is fucking beautiful. And then like, I'm like, I wonder how old this tree is. And then without even like really noticing it, the tree is telling me how old it is. And then I'm going back and forth with this tree, talking to it telepathically, until I realize I'm like, whoa. Like, what the fuck am I doing right now? Like, what the fuck? I didn't even, like, this is weird as fuck, bro. Mm-hmm. And then, like, feeling that, like experiencing that was, like, already, like, weird as fuck. Because I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But then you see, like, the Pocahontas movie where she's, like, talking to the grandmother tree and all that. It's like, I've seen, like, there's a whole bunch of people that reference that of it, like, talking to trees and trees holding a consciousness to it. It's not just like, it's just like, I'm just gonna grow and I'm like a piece of paper. It's like, no, it's like conscious, and it's able to give you like old information because they are like wise. These trees aren't just like us. They're connected to the source.
Those understandings are great. They're sweet.
It's crazy too. It's also like what the hell? Definitely disturbing to a certain point, but beautiful experiences nonetheless.
Then it becomes a practice on the daily basis. At least for me, it is, to see the opportunity to connect it to that same scenario. Seeing everyone like as the same quality of who I am, and also supporting on finding that who I am for everyone. That's pretty awesome to realize that.
That's the main part.
Yeah. So how has psychedelics helped for you?
Oh my God.
On that same question of who I am.
I mean, psychedelics like gave me more of a soul, but like as far as for healing, like I know I've already seen what DMT could do for healing people as far as for cigarette addiction, alcohol addiction, opioids, heroin, alcoholism, every bit of all of that. I've seen DMT, heal that. Mm-hmm. When me and my buddy would smoke like 2 packs of cigarettes a day. We were super addicted to cigarettes, and then we did DMT, and then we stopped smoking cigarettes. We stopped smoking weed, and then like after like a couple days or like a week, I'm just like, yo, isn't there supposed to be like withdrawals? Like, how come? Why wasn't there any withdrawals? I'm like, that's weird. And then like in my mind, I was like, oh, maybe nicotine isn't really that addictive, which is fucking definitely addictive. So then like about 2 years later, all of a sudden they're like, scientists discover that DMT can reset your brain and may help with heroin addicts and alcoholics and all that. And I'm like, that's what it was, because I was confused. I'm like, why is this happening? I believe that it can really, really heal like people who have PTSD, anything like that. I really think that they can get healed from that. And I believe that is like it really is like a reset for the brain, just to like wipe out all the clutter, all the spider webs that you got in there that are like fucking you up mentally. Yeah.
For me it's like those situations are sometimes visualized by me as unsolved equations, basically. So once you finish or do your homework and figure it out, then you will pass to the next problem, basically.
Yeah.
You will keep on going.
Like chapters in your evolution.
Yeah.
I like that. What do you got to say, E? E on the ones and twos. He's about to spit a freestyle.
E over here. E over here, E over there,
E over here,
E everywhere,
E over there,
E over here, putting a pause on this camera.
Putting a pause on it.
Oh, what?
We
hear
pausing?
the doo-doo-doo. Okay, there we go. I'm going to put that one on.
We pausing.
Put the other one on again.
Wait, we got to say good night, everybody. Send your money to Jose's Cash App.
Yeah, good night, everyone. Thank you for coming and listening to this psychedelic podcast called The Traveler.
Oh, we're not done yet.
Oh, I thought we were.
I was
We're like,
just
all right, thank you, good night.
I was just restarting the cameras to make sure that we had a little time so that I could talk with you guys.
Okay.
So,
What you want to talk about?
because I don't think they'll lapse anytime soon. This one might die, but we'll see. Okay. So,
Talk about
Where were we?
something.
We
Where
were
were
talking.
you?
We were talking about in this podcast, in this conversation, we touched about a lot of
Inanimate consciousness.
inanimate consciousness,
trees.
their presentations.
Yeah. So, I always like I have a mango tree in my backyard.
What did it
And-
say to you?
Oh, we'll go there. So,
Stay tuned.
so the ayahuasca experience, anyways. During that, there was this tree that kept on morphing from like a giant, like a black panther or like a cougar or something like that, to like a gorilla. It would go back and forth. Like you would see it, and I would notice that it wasn't necessarily that I was seeing things, but it would become whatever it was that you felt it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it was that
Bending
you thought,
it.
yeah, like you're distort. You know how things morph and change and stuff. So it was that kind of thing, but it would morph and change into whatever. So if I thought it looked like a gorilla, it would really get gorilla-y, you know. So when I came back, so I had this connection with Mother Nature on that, with Mother Ayahuasca, you know, and I was like, okay, so the earth is like our mother, right? Like we're born, we basically come out of this, right? Like we're coming from a being that's from here, that's been here, that was nourished with the plants of the land, right? So we eat the plants, and the plants of the earth feed us, like they fit together with us, right? And so it's like they were made for us. It's like it's symbiotic, right? Like we need to have that in order to survive, so we go together. And then when we die, we go back inside the earth. We literally go back inside the earth, and even if we're burnt to ashes, you know, like we still. So it's like
Still get dissolved. Back
it's like
into
a
the
womb.
Nutrients.
You know, yeah, exactly, back into the nutrients. So it's like a womb, like a mother, right? And so now, like when I'm in my backyard, I'll look at the mango tree and I'll be like, "Hi, tree. Thank you for giving me life. Thank you for giving me air to breathe. I love you." And so then when I would start meditating with the crystals, though, I would one time I just brought the crystal to the backyard and meditated with it, and the tree was like, "Hey, man," I didn't audibly hear the tree say, "Hey, man," but you know, like in my mind,
Yeah,
like
it
I always
happened.
have meditations where I have imagined conversations. So I imagine, "Hey, man," like, and did you know trees are asexual?
No, I didn't know.
Some of them are
Yeah, I think
more
some.
male, like their percentages. So like the mango trees, I guess, are more of a.
Yeah, they have like a.
I can't remember if they're more male or more female, but they are, I guess, like both sexes. So like, you know, that's how the tree is able to, you know,
Pollinate.
do all this pollinate and all that stuff. It's like both sexes technically. So I thought that was really fascinating because it was a guy voice. Like, I mean, I didn't hear it, but you know, like I imagined a guy voice like, "Hey, man," like, "Hey, what's going on?" You know, like, I'm
like-
just, you know, I'm just here. I'm just a tree. You know?
What's
Right.
up, mango tree? And he's like,
No, over here being a human.
He's like, I've been watching your son.
Just being a
Yeah, I've been
person.
watching you guys. You know, watching your son grow up. I watched your wife grow up
Right,
the whole time.
right.
Like,
That's
I've
kinda
been here
weird.
this whole time. You know, and it's just,
Yes.
you know,
I'm
I've
always
seen so many
watching.
things, and it's, you know, it's beautiful. It's, you know, it's gonna be okay. You know?
Lurking in the
Yeah,
shadows.
it's
I'm
the
a
same.
tree,
It's
yeah.
the same as us. Like,
Yeah.
and we grow like this to
Yeah.
the sun. It's the same.
Isn't that beautiful? I mean, we really do. Like, the thing I think that happens is you get this Mother Earth, Mother Earth. So, like, this Earth consciousness, right? Like, so you know that you're a part of it. I mean, we all kind of know that, but, like, I feel like we've gotten disconnected from that.
Yeah.
And in a certain sense, some of these psychedelics, like ayahuasca or even DMT
Brings
being
us
a part of
back.
it, yeah, it's kind of bringing us back into harmony with nature, like, hopefully so that we don't have to have a rude awakening of some kind, you know. So I kind of want to segue into the whole DMT topic, right? So Josh, let me think.
I don't know who Josh
I'm
is.
actually gonna look at the questions that I had that I wanted to ask you, so I don't forget to touch on anything cool and awesome. So let's see. How do you feel? So, okay. So after you did these, right, Do you feel like you took back anything with you, like that kind of helped you along in your life, like give you a different sense of perspective?
I feel like in doing it, it's like one, like if you're just grayed out and just like stuck in this material world where you don't think anything is, like important spiritually or anything like that, like it brought back the fact that I'm like, wow, we really do live in a magical world. Everything really is a blessing. It's crazy. Like, what a fucking time to be alive. It brought that energy in me, like my inner child, my inner, magic just being like re-sparked and all that. And a lot of people, their flame just gets dimmed out over time, and that just like brought that flame back. That's how I feel about that.
Wow, I think that's really like a reset. I feel like a lot of psychedelics do that with the reset, but I think I like how you say like what a magical time to be alive. Like, what about you, Jose? Like when you do, like I know you went away for a while, right? To do, like you went to travel, right? You went to, it was Ecuador?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about that, like the spiritual experiences you've had and the journey you've had trying to find yourself.
Right. Until now. I had a sense of disconnection with the system, like by nature, and growing up, I was always mocking authority, and that led me to mocking or not being friends with the system placed by authority or its rules. Although I was as far as I could, and right now I live in Miami, so yeah. So you could just walk away, and that was one of reality that I had when I was like first starting doing psychedelics. Psychedelics amplified that because I was looking for other types of systems or on society to where to live and involve. So that was one option, going to travel and just trusting some kind of higher power and just like being brave. I don't know, not being brave. It's
kind of being brave though.
Yes, because you don't want to let go. Like I was very scared when this idea started when I was maybe 15, and by when I graduated 17, I've already told my family so many times I'm gonna do this when I graduated, and they never believed me. So as soon as I graduate, I buy my tickets and I send it, and I buy my tickets, I bought my backpack, whatever, I bought my tent, and I didn't really have a plan. I just wanted to walk and just see what happens if you walk long enough.
The Forrest Gump approach.
Yeah,
just
the
keep on going.
Yeah, just keep on going. And so I was super scared. I had like $600 that I took with me, and I was kind of like still afraid of doing it. So I was staying in rooms, and I will be paying like $10 a night and not using my tent. And I had my guitar also with me, but I was still afraid to make money and play in front of 10 people and then ask for money. And then after a time, I understood how to do those things, and I was not afraid anymore. So that itself is also a very spiritual experience of how to comprehend the body and how to comprehend making
emotions.
Making money, emotions, being afraid, and just dropping in, and how to manage with that kind of side of anxieties and fear. So I started doing a lot of ceremonies, mushrooms, San Pedro. I did a lot too, and they were all special, and they have a similar language. Everywhere you go, like if you have a transcendental psychedelics experience, it's gonna be the same language. It's gonna be the same crying, the same reason why, because as a collective we are suffering the same situations. It's just repeating itself in itself.